All right, we're getting down to it here. This is your second to last set of notes, the third one for this last unit. So use this for questions 27 through 36. It'll be due Monday, May 4th before midnight. So we talked a little bit last couple notes about how much campaign money, right, was going in, and we talked about the primary season and why that was so important, and people having a voice, and all the delegates that we had to win. And so today we're going to look at some of the campaign finance laws, although they're really not very effective, is really the theme of all this, and what the heck a super PAC and a PAC is. I do want to start off, though, by trying to give you a sense of how much money we are talking about as far as a presidential campaign goes. So when you file taxes, right, on your W-2, once you make enough to do this, right here, this presidential election campaign. It basically asks you if you want $3 of your taxes that you are spending anyway. It's not an extra $3, but it's just, hey, out of all the income taxes that you are giving to the federal government, do you want $3 of it to go to what's called the Presidential Matching Fund, which is basically funding presidential campaigns? You are essentially just putting it in this big old account that presidential candidates, if I want to run for president, I can declare it, and I can go state to state to state, and I can take federal public tax money to help fund my campaign. That's the idea, right? And the reason for even doing this and this whole idea was, hey, maybe this, like it says down there, can level the playing field, right? This is how maybe somebody that's not rich to begin with could actually run for president and make a splash, right? I can maybe get millions of dollars through this matching fund, even though, I'm a janitor, or I'm a public school teacher, or I'm, a small business owner. I don't have to be a millionaire. I don't have to have a powerful family. I don't have to have all those other presidential criteria necessarily. The idea is maybe anybody can run for president if they do this. All right. So then, as we run for president, you can either opt in or opt out. So when you file your W-2, you can just check that box, yes or no. What it does is whenever some American citizen basically donates to your campaign. So the more people you get donating to your campaign officially, the fund matches the first $250 of their contributions, right? On average, that would have been about $24 million in 2016 for anybody. And yet, despite free $24 million, most candidates said, no, I'm opting out of that. I'm not taking presidential matching funds. I'm not taking that money. Why the heck would you pass up $24 million? And the answer is, if I take that $24 million, I have to agree to an overall spending limit. It caps the amount of money that I can take and raise and then spend for my campaign. And the cap would have been, like it says, about $48 million in 2016. Plus, there is sort of a stigma to it. Maybe your opponent's running for president against you from the other party, or even within your own party, if it's a primary, could say, hey, they're taking the public funds, they're taking taxpayer money, they are taking millions of dollars to try to run for president, when those millions of dollars could be going towards, infrastructure or military or public schools or whatever. It's something that you could point at and say, they're taking your tax money. Um, so that might be one more reason too, but the spending limit is the biggest one. Now, $48 million is a lot of money, but the crazy thing is when you're talking about presidential candidates and how much money they are raising and spending, $48 million with an M is not very much. So here's what they raised as the two biggies here in 2016. This doesn't even count all the primary stuff ahead of that. I mean, from all the other candidates, this is just for Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Okay, $48 million, is less than 5% of what these two numbers are. And that's crazy. Okay, So yes, 48 million is a lot of money, but when you're talking about how much money is flowing in as of elections right now for presidents, it's just not that much. And so to cap that at 48 million, I can't compete with 1.4 billion or 900 million dollars if I take that. So you're actually better off not doing it, not taking the criticism from it, and hoping that you're going to make a ton of money elsewhere. So the reality is, it is still hard for an average Joe Schmo to make a splash becoming president. You have to be a name, right? You have to be in politics. You probably have to have money to begin with. And so that's what's tough. It's a good idea. It's just not effective because of how much money is pouring into the system. Okay? And of course, we can kind of thank Citizens United in that court case for that. So all that money basically falls into two categories, right? There are direct campaign contributions. All right. So if I, you know, am wanting to, if I have money laying around and I want to actually donate to someone's campaign one way or the other, or I want to support this Democrat or this Republican for president, there are limits, all right, to direct donations. So these have to be reported to the FEC, which is the government agency, the watchdog over all of this, all right? Okay, so me as an individual, I can give directly to somebody, some candidate's campaign, right, $2,800. This is for 2020. This is for this year as president. I can give 2,800 directly. FEC has to know about it. It's capped at 2,800. I can give 5,000 to a PAC. PAC is a political action committee. Blah. All right. And if I want to give to a national party, like the National Republican Party or the National Democratic Party, I can give 35.5. Those are hard caps. I cannot give more than that, and they have to report all that to the FEC. The other type of spending, right, are called independent expenditures. They are basically donations to interest groups or super PACs or other things that have political views, right, that are trying to get something done. It is definitely political spending, but they are not directly associated or coordinating with a candidate. Okay? So like we talked about with our interest group thing at the end of last unit, I can give as much money as I want to, let's say, the NRA, and then as long as the NRA is not in direct coordination with only one presidential candidate, if they're basically going to support just about every Republican, I'm good, right? I can give up $500 million to them and say, hey, make commercial after commercial after commercial after commercial and bumper sticker and whatever, okay, because I'm not directly coordinating with a specific Republican candidate. That is unlimited money, all right? So these PACs or super PACs that are not directly associated, they can make TV ads for them, but again, there's no coordination, okay, or some labor union or whatever it is, all right? And that is the big major loophole. If it's directly to a candidate or direct association, it's capped. If it's not, it's unlimited. And that's how all the money comes pouring, and that's how you get the $1.4 billion and $900 million. All right. So the other theme of this set of notes here is that basically in the past like over 40 years now, all right, we have tried to pass some kind of law in Congress that will put some kind of limits on how much money is influencing people's campaigns. We have tried. Okay, and it starts with FECA, right? Short for that, the Federal Election Campaign Act, right? It kind of came in two waves. And again, we are trying to actually have to report expenditures. Where are you getting your money? How much money are you getting? And what are you using that money for? Right? So this not only forced the reporting, but it created the whole FEC in the first place, as in a government watchdog over the whole campaign finance thing. Okay. Um, and it also had this whole system in place. Right? So that was the idea. Really good intentions, pretty good law, had both Democrats and Republicans on the side of it. And so because of that, I mean, what is the FEC? Well, it's an organization, I mean, that does these things, but it's made up usually of 3 Democrats and 3 Republicans. They made it on purpose a 3-3 organization to try to keep things fair. But think about that for a second. If you always have 3 Democrats and 3 Republicans, and it comes down to a vote on how to enforce something, or whether somebody is guilty of something or not, what if it's always just a 3-3 tie? I think by making it that way, it kind of, hamstrung its effectiveness. So, good intentions, not a bad law. The other thing that's going to sabotage this is that we keep having these court cases come along and starts poking holes in what the FEC can or cannot do. The big hole in the FECA law comes from the court case Buckley versus Vallejo, which was pretty quickly after this, right? Interest groups, right, don't like these kind of laws because it puts limits on their spending. Well, the loophole they found was this thing called soft money. And soft money are basically, it had no limit for party building expenses at local levels. So like for county elections or, for state stuff on a smaller scale, there was no limit to how much I could give for party building expenses. Okay, so if I could give the Kansas Republican Party or the Kansas Democratic Party still millions and millions and millions of dollars, then they could just funnel that upward, towards the national stuff. So there was no limit to what you could really do on the ground. Okay, and so pretty big loophole this really poked in. All right, and it made us have to really find a new law to try to close this loophole, right? But this was the big court case that said, no, nothing in the law from FECA said you can limit soft money. All right, so at a local level, to do these little grassroots on the ground things, we don't see anything in the law that says you should be able to limit that. And it's not what it was intended for, so sorry, Congress, soft money is open for people to do, right? Which brings us to about 30 years later, right, where soft money had clearly gotten out of control and people had figured out how to get around the whole FECA system. So again, there's a big push. Again, it's bipartisan. Both Democrats and Republicans are pushing for the BCRA. Okay, again, short for that. And so the whole goal of this, we got to eliminate soft money and just in general try to beef up the FEC a little bit. All right. So again, Democrats and Republicans on board with this and also really wanted to reduce the whole negative campaigns. Okay. And this is where the whole, quote at the end of some of these commercials, I'm Daniel Jansen, I approve this message. They said you actually have to put your name on this for certain negative campaign ads. I mean, if it's directly from your campaign and you're directly attacking your opponent, at least put your name on it, at least own it a little bit, okay? And if that happens to rub people the wrong way, well, at least it's there. Okay. Now, if an interest group is going to make a negative campaign ad that's not, again, coordinated or directed with a different candidate, they don't have to do that. So again, it's a big, just as there's a difference between independent expenditures and direct contributions, that law about advertising is the same way. So BCRA comes down the pipe in 2002, and there's basically 2 court cases that challenge it, over the course of the next 6-7 years. Okay. Here are the big 6 things that BCRA was trying to do. Okay, it wanted to eliminate the whole soft money thing. Supreme Court said, yes, great, get rid of soft money. That's fine. We're closing that loophole. That's what the law was intended for. Got no problem with that. Okay. They also wanted to, again, put more limits on how much direct money is going to candidates. It was 2000 when that law came down the pipe. Right now it's up to 2,800, almost 20 years later, mostly because of inflation. They said, okay, yes, we can cap that. All right. That way you don't just need to have one rich citizen fund your entire campaign. Okay. Probably a good thing. Banning foreign money and foreign influence. Big, 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 big law here, right? That, again, the whole Russian influence thing in 2016, there's still a lot of questions about that, but they said in general, yes, that is okay. This is an American thing from the American people. Keep foreign influence out. Now, what does foreign influence look like? Does sending a tweet asking for Russia to look up dirt on your opponent, for instance, is that coercing or inviting foreign influence? Questionable. Okay, and so yeah, there's that whole thing. But beefing up disclosure laws on where things are coming from, sure. Let's keep corporations and individual people accountable. All right. Can we keep minors, as in people under the age of 18, from giving contributions? Okay. And think about that. If your parents, right, are giving the cap or the limits, can they also then donate again under the name of their children? SCOTUS said, yes, they can do that. You cannot ban them from doing that, because what if it really is coming from a 15-year-old? Money is speech, right? That's the big Citizens United ruling. You cannot limit certain things because we're going to equate people's political spending with their free speech. Putting a cap on my money is a cap in my mouth. And here's the biggie down here. Can labor unions, can corporations, can nonprofit organizations, as in interest groups, can we put limits on their spending? No, we cannot. Because again, money is speech. As long as they are not directly coordinating with a candidate, you cannot limit how much money they are spending. This is huge, and it's a big old loophole, okay, that has just invited so much money from outside sources, okay? This is almost more than a loophole. Now, to try to get people to understand how big of a deal this was in 2010, okay, Stephen Colbert kind of made a fake, what's called a super PAC, all right, to kind of make fun of the system, and he found out a lot about it along the way, that really there's not a whole lot of difference between a political action committee that he is directly associated with and a super PAC. It's basically almost just in the wording of how you do this.
How much money have you collected so far?
Oh, the fun thing about that is I don't have to tell you.
Well, you have to tell me who sends it to you.
No, not for a while.
Well, eventually.
Eventually I do, but until then, my major donor is none of your damn business.
But every three months.
It's every 3 months once you start reporting. But I actually formed this back in July, and I still haven't reported yet.
And what can happen to you?
What? I could go to FEC jail.
But they don't send people to jail.
Well, then I guess nothing will happen to me.
Well, they can fine you.
They can fine me, but they have to actually rule that I did something wrong. And the FEC is a 3-3 organization, and they're far more likely to come to a tie, in which case they say, we don't know whether you've done anything wrong, in which case I can keep doing what I want.
You cannot be a candidate and run a super PAC. That would be coordinating with yourself.
And that's the problem, folks. Presidential candidates cannot coordinate with super PACs.
Mr. Speaker, are you giving any direction or advice to Winning Our Future, the super PAC? Are you affiliated with them at all?
I'm not affiliated with them at all. I don't talk with them at all.
There's a bright division between what I do and what any super PAC can do.
Super PACs have to be entirely separate from a campaign and a candidate. I'm not allowed to communicate with a super PAC in any way, shape, or form.
Super PACs are often run by people close to the candidate. The pro-Romney super PAC, Restore Our Future, was founded by Romney's lawyer. Winning Our Future, the Newt Gingrich super PAC, is run by a former Newt staffer. And the Rick Perry super PAC, Make Us Great Again, was started by Mike Toomey, who was Perry's chief of staff and co-owns an island with Dave Carney, Perry's chief strategist. And I briefly kind of ran for president in South Carolina in January. Yeah. So I gave it to this guy who I barely knew, named Jon Stewart. Trevor, is being business partners a problem?
Being business partners does not count as coordination legally.
Great. All right. All right, John, prepare yourself. Here we go. Trevor, if you will.
Colbert Super PAC transfer activate.
Colbert Super PAC is dead.
But it has been reborn as the definitely not coordinating with Stephen Colbert Super PAC! Now that I have the Super PAC, it is
Yes,
mine.
John.
Can I run ads supporting Stephen Colbert, who I believe in very deeply, and perhaps attacking his potential opponents, who I don't believe in at all?
Yes, you can, as long as you do not coordinate.
Can I legally hire Stephen's current Super PAC staff to produce these ads that will be in no way coordinated with Stephen?
Yes.
What?
So the term coordinating, right, or how do you actually enforce that in a court of law? So it's nonsense, is really what it is. Okay? To say that a presidential candidate has nothing to do with these super PACs who are raising billions, sometimes of dollars for them, it's crazy. Okay, but this is the big loophole, all right, that Citizens United have opened up. So money is speech, and because of that, these are the tax code, like what you have to identify as far as tax goes. These are basically all means, hey, these are nonprofit organizations. Even though we're going to raise millions and millions of dollars through donations and stuff, we're not really there to make money. And we're also definitely not coordinating with candidates, okay? But you can't put a limit on these things because they are registered as nonprofit organizations. It's really hard to prove coordination. And of course, they have these two, especially Citizens United, court case backing them up, ruling that says money is speech. So even if you wanted to disclose it and limit it, they would say, no, you can't do that because you are taking away someone's freedom of speech. It's nonsense is really what it is. Okay, so this has been basically what we've just gone through here in these notes, right? You have a law, right? Congress, the American people, both Democrats and Republicans, we try to do something, court case challenges it, opens up a loophole, PACs or soft money. Congressional law, try to limit it, okay, and then here's where we end up, another loophole. All right, the Supreme Court has not helped in this, basically. This is one of the most unpopular Supreme Court decisions that we've ever had, quite honestly. And most opinion polls will say that 2/3, if not even up to 3/4 of Americans say there should be limits on political spending. It would be nice to have that, okay? The problem is, as long as this is open, both Democrats and Republicans are going to publicly say, hey, yeah, it would be nice if we had limits on this, but as long as my candidate or my opponent is doing it, why the heck wouldn't I do it too, right? It's a problem. And the only way really to get around this court case, I guess you could look at it again, or we could do an amendment, okay? So I tried to diagram this, and I also kind of stole this from apgov.org, so it's not totally mine, credit where credit's due, but okay, let's say the Koch brothers, right, are trying to support Mitt Romney. This is really back in 2012, but if they give directly to his PAC or directly to him, right, or his campaign, contributions are limited and disclosed. It's that 2,800 or that 5,800 or 35.5, right? If they give directly to a super PAC as Koch Industries, they are a for-profit organization still, right? So it's unlimited how much they can give to a super PAC, but they do have to say, here's how much money we spent. They still have to disclose that to the FEC. If the leaders of the Koch Industries, as in the Koch brothers, though, if they create a different organization and file under a 501c4, and that's what they did, it's called Americans for Prosperity. Now, whatever they give to the super PAC, they don't even have to say how much money they give. And the super PAC, again, definitely not coordinating, even though it might be dudes that he worked with and used to be people that were on his staff running the super PAC. Oh, we're definitely not coordinating. We're just going to make millions of dollars worth of campaign ads going after, Barack Obama or other Republican people, during the primaries or whatever. And you can't. It's that indirect influence. We're not saying, hey, we love Mitt Romney. We're just saying we hate all his opponents. Okay? Loopholes. So that's the gist, all right, of all this campaign finance stuff. So get this section of the notes done, all right, and get it done by May 4th, all right, before midnight. One more to go, all right, then we'll be all done.